Good afternoon. My name is Corinne Waldow. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Boulder Chamber. I want to thank you for joining us this week for the Outdoor Recreation and Indoor Recreation Safer at Home Weekly Updates. We appreciate you joining us each week for updated information, to ask your questions, and to provide feedback as we've asked for it. There will be updates over the next couple weeks as our state moves either forward into protect our neighbors or in the opposite direction if we can't keep our numbers down. So it is important that you reopen in a safe fashion and that we continue to act as a community to keep our numbers down and mitigate the expansion of the virus. At this time, I'm going to hand it off to Mary Olson with Boulder County Public Health.
Thanks, Corinne. Welcome, everyone. We're just going to review some of the information that we shared with you last week on the latest public health order, give you an update on epidemiological data, and talk about protect our neighbors a little bit, and then we will move into recreation-specific information, and of course, take your questions along the way. Just a reminder of where we're at this point. We are in our 4th month of dealing with the pandemic in our community. A couple weeks ago, beginning of June, we had that guidance come out for recreation. Then a couple weeks ago, we had more information for camps and for indoor and outdoor events. And then that framework guidance that the state put out for potentially moving in to protect our neighbors on a community by community basis. The last revised public health order was issued on June 19th. And the state is looking at potentially allowing protect our neighbors to happen in some communities as early as next week. But for now, the long-term outlook is that we're safer at home, and it's long-term. We are going to be here until we have a vaccine or treatment or herd immunity, and that is likely many months away. Unfortunately, throughout the country, we've seen a huge spike in cases. We are at an 80% increase in the past 2 weeks alone across the country. And that is a real threat here in Colorado because there are a lot of spikes in some of our neighboring state communities. So we can't let our guard down. And Corinne just shared with me that the governor just announced that bars are going to have to close as of tomorrow. So we are in a precarious situation. We need to continue to be really vigilant so that we can progress and stay open and stay safe, so that your businesses can stay open as well. The county extended our face covering ordinance yesterday. We extended it indefinitely. This is a really big concern in gyms and something that we get complaints about throughout all the sectors. So we are really, once again, urging everyone to wear a face mask, a face covering when you're out in public. Move away from others who aren't wearing face coverings if they come close to you. Of course, always keep that 6 feet of physical distancing from people that you don't live with. And that you haven't agreed to have close contact with during the pandemic. And just a reminder to really focus on your sphere of influence, the people that you interact with on a routine basis that aren't in your family. So potentially your colleagues, your patrons, people at the coffee shop that give you coffee every day. You just really need to, those people that you're interacting with on a daily basis, those are the people you need to be concerned with in terms of maintaining distancing and face coverings. And then lastly, just a reminder to really consider the risks and benefits of the activities you're engaging in, because depending on what you're doing, you're increasing your exposure to COVID-19, to the coronavirus, I should say. A little more information on face coverings here. Obviously, we've extended that order. A reminder that we have a face covering script on our website, and that will help you with patrons that aren't wearing a face covering. I think I wanted to say something else about that, but it just vanished. Some other resources for you. We give you these each week. Of course, our website, Boulder County Public Health, that's that top one. The state's website for information, Energize Colorado, and then a couple other resources for you, including any of your professional associations and your local city or municipality. And of course, I just remembered what I wanted to say, which is that depending on where you are, the face covering guidance may be stricter. For example, the city of Louisville has stricter guidance on face coverings. So just be aware of that and know that wherever you are, the strictest guidance applies. A couple more links for you that you will have access to when Corinne sends this out. Again, that 7th revised public health order that was issued on the 19th of June. Remember that the public health orders are mandatory. And we'll have more links to you on some more guidance for recreation later. Another reminder that the county checklist lists for sectors will be removed from our website. We will simply be linking you to the state website for all their guidance on specific sectors. And then I also wanted to mention our social distancing calculator that the state has now adopted. This can really help you when you're trying to lay out your space in your indoor spaces, in your gyms. You can put in your square footage and then kind of account for all the equipment that you have and office furniture, and then come up with an estimate of how many people you can really handle in your spaces. Okay, in terms of case counts in Boulder County, obviously we were really concerned last week when we saw that spike from some of the big gatherings in Boulder. Luckily, we're seeing those fall again, so that's good news, but we need to see that continue to go down as we're moving into the holiday weekend. Just a reminder to be really, really vigilant and safe out there so we can see that the case counts continue to dip. All right, protect our neighbors. Just a reminder that the protect our neighbors phase is something that you have to qualify for, something that you have to apply for. It is not a given by any means. Some of the thresholds that communities have to meet include that case counts are falling or stable, that we can take care of patients that get sick, that we have testing in place and contact tracing in place, that we can handle surges. And we are hopeful that we'll be able to move into it. The county certainly will apply as soon as we can, but again, we have to qualify, and if we don't, then we will be staying where we are at safer at home. Okay, and this is that risk and benefits chart I was talking about a little bit earlier. This is from the state's website. As we move into talking about recreation, you can see we're kind of all over the map here. Outdoor recreation, pretty safe. A lot of space, a lot of sunshine. We can physically distance pretty easily outdoors. Swimming is in the middle. So obviously you're gonna have greater exposure to the virus in a pool. And then at the far end of the spectrum are gyms. And we're concerned about who else is in that category, bars, which are closing again. So just again, just please heed this warning of continuing to disinfect and clean and wear face coverings and keep your distance and really help your patrons make good choices so we can protect our community. Okay. I'm going to hand it off to Marnie, and she will give you some updates on recreation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So a lot of this, for those of you who have joined us for past webinars, this will be a reminder of information for those of you that are new, just to share the guidance for personal recreation has been in place for a couple of weeks. And it is outlined, the guidance comes from the 7th amended public health order that was issued on June 19th. I'm going to start here with these bullets about indoor facilities. That includes your gyms, recreation centers, pools, any fitness studios, that kind of thing. So pools, indoor pools, can open, and they are open. They can open up to 25% capacity or a maximum of 50 people. And this would be whichever is fewer. The per room has also to do with rec centers. So pools, gyms, rec centers, 25% capacity or 50 people, whichever is fewer, per room or in the pool. All of the public health kind of guidelines need to be followed. So that's 6 feet of social distancing, face coverings when you can't social distance, or as what the state says, when feasible. Boulder County Public Health, however, does require face coverings. It's not recommended, it is required whenever 6 feet cannot be maintained in public. Public being indoor spaces as well. Don't share equipment. Of course, in some places like our weight rooms, sharing of equipment is kind of necessary. In those cases, the equipment needs to be cleaned and disinfected between each use. Each patron that uses it, it has to be cleaned in between. Your restrooms and showers are open. And while you can have lockers, this has been a question over the time. Overall, if you can close your lockers, close them. The idea is to close off a series of lockers to help offer a physical and a social cue to promote the social distancing. If you can get away with not having lockers at all, that would be preferred, but that is how that is. Let's move on to outdoors. So outdoor activities. Overall, outdoor activities with 10 or fewer people are authorized when it comes to personal recreation. Of course, everything I just described about social distancing does apply even in the great outdoors. One of the things that we have shared with you all, and that continues to be the case as for now, is that Boulder County is allowing for up to 50 people in an outdoor fitness class. It's very important to take that sentence verbatim. So it's 50 people who are participating in outdoor fitness class as long as they can follow social distancing. This doesn't mean that you can have 50 people gathering for some social party kind of thing. It's simply for this thing of outdoor fitness class. And of course, if you can't maintain social distance, that number has to be fewer so that you can maintain social distance. Additionally, the outdoor swimming pools have a little bit more room. You can go up to 50% capacity outside, but the limit is still no more than 50 people. And again, it is whichever is fewer. So if your pool can't accommodate 50 people, you can only go to that 50% capacity. One nuance of outdoor pools that is included in the guidance is that every hour you need to clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces, shared objects, and bathrooms. The numbers are a little different when it comes to playgrounds and your outdoor sports facilities. And this would be your tennis courts, pickleball, basketball courts. You cannot have more than 25 people per court or field for sport facilities. And again, clean and disinfect frequently. So the number of 25 is also used for organized youth and adult recreational sport leagues. Now, in the instance of 25 people in a playground, those 25 people are probably a parent and a child as a group of its own. And you could have up to 25 individuals in that space if there is enough room to do so for social distancing. In the case of your sport leagues, you can have a group up to 25 players. So that's kind of what you need in order to play a game between maybe baseball or soccer or such. So that would be your players, and that number of 25 does not include, or it does exclude, your coaches, referees, and umps. Some important things about your leagues are that your league needs to, and your team needs to maintain contact information and team rosters. The idea being that if an outbreak occurs, you can have your phone tree to figure out and let everyone know what's happening. And to minimize the possibility of that, the state highly encourages that you consider holding games with other teams every 2 weeks because we're looking at that 10 to 14 day incubation period. Don't share snacks, water bottles, and don't share personal equipment. As for spectators, spectators are strongly discouraged for adult sports, and they are permitted for youth sports. So as a family, you can go and watch your kid play, your player play, but you do need to maintain social distancing between those household units. So a minimum of 6 feet between your group and any other household that's out there watching the game. This slide has all your links, or at least the links that I think are most pertinent and important to you all. So we've got a link to the 7th Amended Public Health Order, which you can read in full. The state has done a great job of turning that information into some really good guidance that is a little bit more user-friendly. And that includes guidance for personal recreation, most of which I've just kind of gone over with you. Another category is titled outdoor recreation. And that is, think about that as more of your outdoor industry. So anybody who does guided tours or possibly even non-guided tours. Climbing is one that we might have here in our county, hiking, that kind of thing. You're going to want to take a good look at that information to understand, it's very similar, but there is some information particularly for the operators, and let us know if you have any questions on that. The other 2 items that may or may not pertain to you that we covered last week has to do with some recent guidance that was approved. I think it was updated and approved last week. And that would be outdoor events and indoor events. Events being a good example might be that if you run a rec center or a gym, that in our public local government rec centers, somebody may want to utilize one of those rooms for an activity or a space. It gives you guidance on what's permitted. Another example for outdoors would be the Boulder County Fairgrounds and a rodeo. So maybe that applies to you. If it does, take a look at that. And the space calculator that Mary shared earlier is specific also, good guidance to know for indoor and outdoor events. If you're interested, and not only if you're interested, but a lot of folks, there's more than one set of guidelines that do apply to you. So again, for a rec center, maybe you sell some food, some concessions. The restaurant guidance would apply for you for that concessions area. Whereas if you sell some t-shirts, the t-shirts apply, the retail applies to you. So that's why this last link of downloading the full guidance could be very useful. It's also good to understand and see across the board what all businesses, there's some good guidance on what applies to all businesses. We offer these webinars on a weekly basis, and here's the schedule for what you will be seeing next week, and links on how to participate in any additional, or perhaps you want to come back to this one as well next week. And as always, please, you are welcome to reach out and contact us here at Boulder County Public Health. The COVID email address is up on the screen now. We also do have the call center, and it is important to note that coming up on July 6th, those hours will change, still being Monday through Friday, but only from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that phone number is available there for you as well. think this is our last slide.
It sure is. Thank you to Mary and Marnie, and we have Jesse on the call as well. So we do have some questions that came in, and Jesse, you might want to be the one to cover this one. Mary made the announcement that the governor closed bars just about less than an hour ago, starting July 1st, which is tomorrow. And the question is this all bars? Is this Colorado? Is this Denver? And if we have a restaurant bar in our athletic facility, is that counted?
So we're also just getting this news, as Corinne just mentioned, but the guidance we've seen is that it is all bars across the state. However, if your bar offers food, has a kitchen as part of a licensed food service kitchen, or has partnered with a food service provider like a food truck, then you're permitted to continue operating as you were. Bars opened at 25% capacity, I think 2 weeks ago. So we're basically going back to that phase when those bars without food service were open.
Yeah, so restaurants, when the restaurants open, the bars that could partner with a food service establishment, a food truck and so forth. So in this case, because it's a restaurant bar and it does have food service, it's going to fall under the food service.
I mean, I would check because we can't advise you directly, through this medium. You can email us, call us, and we can get back to you and talk to whoever, about specific situation.
Okay. So we have a question. How long will reservations be required for rec centers to have the place for use? Can we stop doing reservations but still limit the number of people on a first come, first served basis?
My recollection of the order is that reservations are recommended. I don't know that they are required. We should review that. And on the fly, I guess I want to review that before giving you the guidance that reservations are only recommended.
And one of the reasons that reservations, we've talked about this in the previous calls, is so on a first come, first service basis, you'll have people convening in the entryway, and you won't know the numbers. And so it's to control that flow of traffic in and to know so that you don't have a lot of people convening in and out.
And the important piece of that, and was something that we didn't necessarily cover on the slide, other than what we talked about, that the magic number in the public health order still is 10. And the state has given lots of guidance in all different sectors to be able to get our economy going again. But at the end of the day, if there isn't guidance specific to a particular activity or a particular sector, the fallback is that it's not even fallback, it states, all other activities can only be up to 10 people. The area that Corinne is talking about, which is when you are checking somebody in and out of your facility, that's a shared space that really that is a limit of 10 people. And that's another reason why the reservations are in there, so that you can gauge and better monitor people in those shared spaces.
The current recommendations and current requirements under Safer at Home will continue for a while, correct? So that you're not going to have a magic date that says you're going to stop doing reservations or these 10 on a certain date, partly because we are seeing some industries go backwards. We're seeing spikes in numbers around the nation, and we want to protect our own communities from seeing those spikes as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. This question is, the outdoor activities with 10 or fewer people and then outdoor sports playgrounds at 25 doesn't make much sense, especially if social distancing is workable for outdoor activities. Can you clarify?
I don't know how to clarify that. I think that essentially the state is saying we're authorizing any recreational activity as long as it's a maximum of 10 people. Just like every other piece of guidance, they've given different numbers relative to making things work. So I think that the other numbers that you're seeing, for instance, for playgrounds, you're not getting 25 people all going to a playground together. You're allowing a group of 1 to 2 cohort, like 1 to 2 people per household to be in that same shared space. Maximum of 25 individuals sharing that space. I don't know exactly how to clarify it unless you could help me understand a particular activity that you are hoping that the numbers, or you're wondering if those numbers could be different, and help us understand what activity it is that doesn't work for.
If they could clarify, that'd be great. I think that you've kind of answered the question as the difference between a playground and, you know, an activity that's organized where the 10 people are interacting with each other.
Yeah,
although, you know, it's,
I mean, we've been working on this for a while. So, and these questions that you're asking are the same questions that we've had to help understand a little bit more closely. When it comes to youth sports, it's specific to youth and adult sports. This is a league. These are people that are not coming in just for a day or a week, unrelated, not knowing each other. They are part of something that's happening for several months, and they can do contact tracing if something were to occur. So I had mentioned that there's guidance for other sectors. Another sector would be the childcare and youth sport camps have completely different guidance than the sport youth leagues. So it comes back to finding ways and allowing things to occur so that they can economically, we can get jump started and have that stability, and yet balance the need to ensure that at any point in time, we don't overwhelm our public health system or healthcare if something were to occur. That's the way I look at it.
and I'll tell you, the person wrote back and said, thank you, the clarification that clarified the question. So appreciate that.
So I
There's
just
a
want to jump in.
question. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Sorry. I checked the indoor gyms recreation center guidance with respect to the reservation system, and couldn't find anything specifically in the order about it, but in the guidance on the state's webpage, it says use a reservation system or use pre-existing electronic capacity monitoring systems, if feasible, to space out and limit participants gathered at one time. So I think Marnie is exactly right. What we're really looking at is you just need to monitor the number of people, and that those reservation systems are really a good way to stop impromptu gatherings at the front door while people are trying to figure out if there are enough people or too many people in the space.
Mm-hmm. Especially at those peak times when everybody wakes up and it's like, I'm going to go to the gym right now, and not knowing if you're going to be able to go in because of a first come, first serve. One of the reasons they put that out there.
And the other thing the guidance talks about in various parts, right? In various parts of the guidance, but these are good pieces. And that is what you're seeing in almost any retail place. You've got physical cues on the ground that show stand here and you can stand there, that's 6 feet away. That's how there's these cues to help remind us what 6 feet of distance looks like. Those are things that you could implement as well. It'll also help you and your staff and your patrons to remind each other that you can only fit 3 people waiting in a queue, or they have to be outside.
Can you clarify the rules on racquetball courts? Can 2 unrelated people use a racquetball court at the same time?
So I saw this one come in. I am gonna start by saying we cannot offer you legal guidance. And I know that we've said that. So you have to take our answers as an interpretation. So the couple of things about racquetball court, I think that you would utilize the space calculator to determine the size of your racquetball court. Can two unrelated people use the racquetball court? I think that the social distancing rule would apply here. Racquetball is one of those indoor things. It's also one of those things that you probably get kind of close to each other. And so I think it would probably, if you can't maintain social distance, they would have to be masked. That would be the way that I would interpret it.
I think if they're masked, they could still play.
As long as they're masked.
Yeah.
Mask, wash your hands, maybe not share equipment. So some of those pieces.
Lots of washing hands.
Lots of hand. And then there's, you know, also the cleaning of the facility in between players that you may not find because of the amount of space that's covered by a racquetball player. That might be something to consider as well. Are there any other questions out there? So while we're waiting for questions, this weekend's July 4th. We're going into July 4th, and the last outbreak peak we saw in Boulder County came after, you know, Memorial Day weekend and some of the activities following that. What are some things that we need to do as a community? Jesse, you've done this on a couple calls today. What are some things we need to do as a community to stay vigilant so that we can continue moving forward in the reopening process as opposed to backwards?
Sure. I'm going to steal this from Cami, who mentioned it in the last presentation. The state is talking about practicing the big three: washing your hands, wearing a mask, and maintaining social distance. And really, I think that comes down to, yeah, like you said, we're headed into a holiday weekend that normally involves large gatherings of people. Avoid those. Try to limit the number of people you hang out with. I know that makes it maybe less fun, but we really need to get a handle on the spread of this if we're expecting to open up more, reopen bars, things like that. And it really comes down to your personal choices with respect to risk and those of your family and friends, but really making choices to stay socially distanced is important. I mean, that's why we're in the safer at home phase. It really is. We're trying to figure out ways to reopen the economy and get people back together, but until we have that vaccine or treatment, we really just have to remember to continue to treat this like the very dangerous virus that it is. So enjoy the outdoors. I can't believe I'm saying things that are in the name of the order. It's the safer at home and in the great outdoors public health order or something like that. But really, go outside, enjoy that. But remember that you need to stay distant, that you need to stay physically distant from people. And you can stay physically distant from people and still be socially friendly. But wear a mask, wash your hands, and stay safe.
When in doubt, bring it out. Your mask, that is.
Yep.
And you know, I told this story on one of the previous calls, but I was on a call yesterday with my college roommate from North Carolina, which is recently seeing a peak, and they had their first mask order as of yesterday. They're like, masks? We have to wear masks? You know, after the stay-at-home phase, everything was just open. So they're seeing, you know, I think Colorado's taking it very slowly, and there's a lot of protective measures and a lot of requirements. But I think that we're seeing some of the effects of that nationwide, and we need to stay vigilant in our efforts. When you bring up that risk chart and we look at the things that are high risk in this category, in this particular webinar, you know, some of the activities in this webinar are considered high risk. And so we're hoping to be able to keep those open as we move forward. So July 4th holiday, your employees, your customers, making sure that we're all following those public health orders. Are there any other questions out there? As a reminder, I will send out all the links that were mentioned today, as well as I've been sending out their latest projections from the state epidemiologists, the public health order that came out in Boulder County about the face covering extension. And then, like I said, all the links, contact information, and the new hours for the call center starting on the 6th of July. In the meantime, we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have some more guidance on what Protect Our Neighbors looks like and whether or not Boulder County will be able to apply in the near future. We will also update any changes. If there's a potential another public health order, we'll have other changes. And we will continue to offer opportunities for you to ask these questions. Have a great 4th of July. Stay safe and stay healthy. And thank you to everybody from Boulder County Public Health for being on this call.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Corinne.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.